Hey everyone, in this lesson we are going to learn about enumerations, or commonly called simply enums. Alright, and these are a special data type that makes it easy to group together related types and use them. Alright, so let's see how this works. Let's go ahead and create a new playground. I'm going to open up a blank playground here and say next. And I'm going to put this on the desktop and call this enumerations and say create. All right, I'm going to get rid of this variable here. And now let's pretend that we are going to be working with an app that has different levels of subscriptions. All right, so let's have 4 levels: none, bronze, silver, and gold. Okay, so we could write out an enumerator, an enum, to represent these different types. Okay, so the way to do that is you just say enum. Okay, and then you give the enum a name. I'm going to call mine subtype, and then curly braces. And then for each of the members of the enumerator, for each type that we want to group together, we say case, and then we'll say none, and then return case bronze, then return case silver, and return case gold. Okay. Now, according to the Apple docs, these should be lowercase, and the name of the enumerator should be capitalized with Pascal case. And now we can use this. Let's pretend that we have a user that's just logged into their account, and we are going to assign to them their correct subscription type. So we can say var subtype is equal to, and we can say subtype dot, and then let's say silver or something. And you can see here that we have the 4 cases in our enumerator, and we can select one of these. So I'm going to say subtype.silver. Okay. And there's a couple of ways that you could write this. You could also say, I'm going to comment this out. I'm going to say var subtype of type subtype is equal to subtype.silver. Okay, so you could do it like that. Or you could also do it like this: var subtype of type subtype is equal to, and then you can just do dot, and that will give you the available members for this enumerator: bronze, gold, none. Hey, where's silver at? There you are. Okay, silver. All right, great. So now we have assigned to this variable an option in our subtype enumerator, and then we can do checks on it. So for instance, if we had a portion of our app that was only available to, say, silver subscription types, we could say, something like if subtype is equal to, and then again you could say subtype.silver, or since the compiler knows that subtype is already of type subtype, then we can just say dot silver. And then you could perform some action for silver subs. Okay, we can just print out this user is a silver. Okay, and then if we run that, we'll see, we should see printed out down here, this user is a silver. And then if you wanted to do checks for the other ones, you could do, a whole bunch of else if statements, but a better way to do this, and one that goes hand in hand with enumerations, is the switch statement. And the switch statement takes a value, compares it to several possible matches, and executes the appropriate block of code based on the first successful match. And the syntax looks like this. We have a switch, and then the value that is going to be compared for each case. And then we go case by case. And if there is a match, then we execute that block of code. If not, we go on to the next case. And if there's a match, then we execute that block of code. If we go through all of the cases and there hasn't been a match yet, then we have a default block of code here that will be run. And this is often a much cleaner way than multiple else if statements that would be required to get the same result. And if you're coming from another language, something to note about Swift enumerations is that they do not fall through, meaning once a match is made, it exits the switch statement automatically. No break is required. This is a Swift safety feature, as one of the most common errors beginners make with regards to switch statements in other languages is they forget the break. All right, so let's write out our switch statement here. So I'm going to say switch, and then the value that we are going to switch on is the subtype, okay? So we're going to take this subtype variable, look at its value, and compare it to a number of options. Since we're using an enumerator, we have a finite number of options, and so there are only 4 options, so we don't need that default. So we can get rid of the default, and then for let's get rid of this code here, and then for the case we can say subtype dot none, and then we execute a block of code. Let's go ahead and just print out something. We'll say thanks for nothing, freeloader. And then we have our next case, which is of type subtype dot, and then silver, and then colon, and then we can do another print statement. We're getting yelled at here because it's saying that the switch must be exhaustive. And since we're using an enum, what we can actually do is use Xcode to our advantage, and I'll show you what I mean. If we delete these, we don't have to write all of these on our own. If I just click right here and say switch must be exhaustive, do you want to add missing cases? Since the compiler knows that we are switching on a subtype, which is of type subtype, then it knows that this is an enumerator and it can supply all of these 4 cases for us automatically. So I'm going to say fix, and there we go. We get all 4 of our cases automatically for us, and that's pretty nice. All right, so with the case of .none, let's go ahead and just say print, and we'll say none, and I'm just going to copy this real quick and paste and paste and paste, and just change this to, whoops, that's not bronze, and then silver and gold. Okay, and that is how switch statements work. Super easy. And if we run this, then since our subtype is of silver, we should see printed out here silver. All right, so if you have your user account stored on your backend, it's probable that this subtype is stored as an integer value, and then inside of the app's code is then mapped to one of these subscription types. So for instance, this would be 0, this would be 1, etc. Okay, and we can do that with Swift enumerations. We can provide a raw value for each of these cases, and the way to do that is here we provide the type that the raw value is going to be. So in this case we're going to say int, and then we can say none is equal to 0, not colon. Okay, sometimes a lot of people try to do a colon here, but it's not. It's an equal sign, 0, equal 1, equal 2, equal 3. So it's probable that this is how you might have this data stored in your backend. One little trick here though is that we don't actually have to put numbers on all of these. If we give a number to the first one, then the rest of them will count from there. Okay, so that's a little trick. Okay, so we have our raw values on our subtype enumerator. Now let's go ahead and pretend that we have logged a user into our app. We pull down their account information and their subscription type is equal to, let's say, 2. Okay, so I'm going to put here just a little note. We've downloaded user account and subtype property is equal to 2, we'll say. So we're going to say var subscriber type is equal to 2. So now what you're going to want to do is map this integer value to a member of our subtype enumerator. And the way we can do that is we'll pretend that we have a user class, and one of those properties is subtype. So I'm going to say var subtype, and this is of type subscription or subtype. And I'm going to implicitly unwrap this here, okay? And then we are going to do a switch, and we are going to be switching on this number here, the subscriber type. So I'm going to copy that and paste it right here. And this time we are going to need a default value because we are switching on a number and there's a infinite number of possibilities. So if it's not 0, 1, 2, or 3, then we have to have a default. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to make 0 the default here. So for default, I'm going to say subtype is equal to dot none. And then we'll do the other cases up here. So case 1, we're going to set subtype equal to dot bronze. For case 2, we are going to say subtype is equal to dot gold, or that should be silver. And then finally, case 3, subtype is equal to dot gold. And so just to recap this, we're pretending that we downloaded a user account, and on their account, it says that their subscriber type is 2. And the reason that we want to map it to a member of our enumerator is because every time that you go through and you use the app, you don't want to be trying to remember what 0 means, what 1 means, what 2 means. What is way easier to know is what your subscriber levels are: silver, gold, bronze. And so we map this integer to a enumerator member, and then we save that in our users subtype property. And so here if we print subtype and run this, then we see here printed out subtype.silver. If we change this to 3 and we run this again, we get subtype.gold. If something went wrong and this is set to something like 7, then we're going to get nil. And we're getting nil here, and I think that's because this dot none is not grabbing the actual subtype none. I think it's getting a different type. So I'm going to be explicit here. I'm going to say subtype dot none. And now if we run it, there we go. Now we see subtype dot none. So the default is being called. All right, there we go. That is how enumerations work with Swift. You're able to group together related types. You can add raw values of different types. This could be string, could be character, booleans, and then we learned how to use those in conjunction with switch statements, which make it a lot easier. And yeah, so this has been Enumerations. Hope that that is clear for you, and I will see you in the next one.